What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Pistons Daily, where you can find daily content covering all things Detroit Pistons, Monday through Friday. As always, I'm your host. My name is Kyle Garrison. I'm over on Twitter at Kyle Garrison2, where I talk all things Detroit sports. So head over there, give me comments, questions, concerns, episode ideas. I'd love to hear from all you guys. Also, shout out to everyone who tunes in every single day. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way to help support the channel. With that being said, let's jump into a Friday edition of Pistons Daily. So first things first, let's get into our skill of the day. And I just want to talk about Ron Holland's ability to draw fouls. I think it's a pretty underrated skill for this team. And for him, as a young player, it's really hard to get foul calls in the NBA just because you don't have the status yet. We even have seen Cade Cunningham struggle to get foul calls throughout his young career. And it's been pretty frustrating. I think that a lot of different players, not named Cade Cunningham, would get the fouls that Cade's not. And so it really doesn't matter if you are a top 25, 15, 10 player in the entire NBA. You're going to have to earn getting foul calls. And Ron Holland was very, very solid last year at getting downhill, drawing contact, getting to the line. I know in the Bucks game, he missed those free throws that would have iced it, but he worked on it, and he ended up shooting 75% from the free throw line. And for a guy who was not great from three-point range whatsoever, he still has a very repeatable free throw shot, which, again, I think will translate to his three-point jumper. But just what we're talking about right now with his foul drawing ability, it is encouraging that he shot a decently high clip for somebody who isn't a traditionally great jump shooter. But I think overall, just with Ron's ability to get downhill, draw contact, the way he controls his body off of quick bursts is very impressive for a 19-year-old. And I just like what I've seen from Ron Holland around the rim. He was efficient around the rim as well. And if you're looking at his advanced stats, you can see that when Ron Holland was fouled on 14.6% of his shot attempts last year, which was in the 89th percentile for forwards. And he was able to convert 24.2% of shots he was fouled on for and ones, which was in the 66th percentile. And I know these numbers aren't staggering, but again, it's very encouraging that a guy of his age, he was 18 years old last year, one of the youngest players in the NBA and in his draft class, and he was still able to utilize his athleticism to force defenders to follow him. And the help defense had to follow him as well. Taller defenders had a hard time defending him at the rim just with how explosive he is. He gets up quickly and he accelerates quickly as well. And that's a pretty dangerous combination for a guy who is 6'8", very athletic. And again, he has great body control at the rim, which has allowed him to really hone in on his skills at the rim. And it's just, again, very encouraging to see that he was able to shoot free throws at a very high clip, especially for a rookie. But let me know in the comments if you think that Ron can continue to put pressure on the rim this year and become one of the Pistons' best downhill attacking players. But moving on, I wanted to touch on Greg Swart's article over at Bleacher Report. He put out a piece basically just grading every team's offense heading into the 2025-2026 season, and he had the Pistons at a B-. And I mean, I think that, when you're looking at this team, what they lost, what they gained, a B- is a fair evaluation. And I'll just give you the reasons why Schwartz said this. So his reasons for the Pistons to thrive: a healthy Jaden Ivey gives the Detroit Pistons the secondary shot creator this team needed in the playoffs behind Cade Cunningham. Newly signed Karis LeVert can operate on or off the ball, while Duncan Robinson brings some floor spacing ability. Cade is coming off an all-star season and has quickly become one of the best point guards in the NBA. This is a mostly young core that should see plenty of internal improvement from players like Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, and Ron Holland. And then Schwartz reasons for the Pistons to struggle: having two non-shooters, Thompson and Duren, on the floor at the same time in 2025 is going to be tough to overcome. Detroit was already 20th in made threes last season. It could lose both Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. in free agency. They're two leading outside shooters in terms of volume from last season. We still don't know if the Cade Cunningham-Jaden Ivey pairing can have season-long success given the injury history to both the past few years. And again, I understand that there are some question marks regarding the shooting around Cade Cunningham, But if Jaden Ivey can continue to have similar production to what he did last year before getting injured, I think this team has a B plus, A minus caliber offensive ceiling. And again, they're never going to be the best offensive team in the NBA. I think a lot of their success is going to be predicated on the defensive end. But if you can still be an above average offensive team where you are efficient in the half court, you're also one of the better fast break teams in the entire NBA last year. If you can combine those things together, you have a guy like Cade Cunningham who is unbelievable at improvising and finding ways to get the Pistons buckets when he's on the floor, then you're going to have success offensively. And again, it's very, very predicated on what Cade Cunningham can do, what Jaden Ivey looks like when he gets back. If Asar Thompson and Ron Holland take those offensive jumps, if we see Jalen Duren continue to work his game outside of the paint and become a guy who can shoot mid-range jumpers. And it's very, very encouraging that these guys are all so unbelievably young and they're still making strides from year to year, where none of them are even close to their ceiling yet, especially on the offensive end. And there's a ton of room for growth. And that's why I think that the Pistons offense has a much higher ceiling than a B minus. And I do think that they will be a B plus, A minus offense this year and, push themselves to 50 plus wins in an Eastern Conference that is absolutely wide open. I've been around 45 to 50 wins. And I think the closer we get to the season, the more confident I am for them to get above that 50 win mark. And I think that there's a better chance of them being above 50 wins than it is for them to be below 42, 43 wins, what a lot of people kind of have them predicted as. So, again, we're going to have to see. It's going to be based on a lot of different factors that go into this season. You are losing Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley, which we'll talk about later on in this episode. But I understand outside of Cade Cunningham, there's some serious questions to be answered. And right now, where we're at in the offseason, with what they lost and what they've gained, I think it's fair to have them at a B+, but I do think they will be an above average offensive team by the end of this year. And we will see some big leaps from guys like I mentioned, Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, and Jaden Ivey. Moving on, another Bleacher Report article that I thought was pretty interesting was just overall overreactions for all 30 teams. This was from Grant Hughes, again at Bleacher Report, like I mentioned. And he says that the Detroit Pistons, that Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren are not a part of the future. And I'll just read what his reasoning is. Again, these are overreactions. The Detroit Pistons selected Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren with the 5th and 13th picks in the 2022 draft, which meant both players were eligible for extensions this offseason. If you weren't aware of that, it's probably because there was almost no chatter whatsoever about either of them getting years and dollars added to their deals. One logical conclusion would be that neither Ivey nor Duren feature in Detroit's long-term plans. That's a possibility, and it's also true that neither 2022 draftee has shown enough to definitively establish himself as a core piece. But this is a different financial climate under the new CBA, and one key change is the disappearance of the rubber-stamped rookie scale extension. Plenty of 2022 class members are also without extensions, including Keegan Murray, Benedict Mathurin, Shaedon Sharpe, Dyson Daniels, and roughly a dozen other first-rounders. Teams are getting smarter about using restricted free agency, which Duren and Ivey will hit next summer if they don't extend, to control the market and avoid overspending. Ivey and Duren could blow up this season and remove any doubt about their spots in Detroit's future. Just because they're not locked down now doesn't mean the Pistons have already made up their minds on a pair of promising young players. And my overall thoughts are, I think that there is a lot of speculation surrounding Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren and whether or not they'll be extended. But again, the 4th overall pick, the 6th overall pick, the 7th overall pick, and the 8th overall pick are all yet to be extended. And I don't see a world where none of those guys get extended. I think that Dyson Daniels will get a hefty extension. I think Shaedon Sharpe will as well. Benedict Mathurin, we'll see with the Pacers, but they did just clear up a bunch of cap space, letting Miles Turner walk. So I think Benedict will get money from the Pacers as well. Keegan Murray, we'll have to see. He's kind of been on a very just even trajectory throughout his career. We haven't really seen him grow as a player. We haven't seen him really decline. So his upside is up in the air, so we'll have to see with that. But outside of Keegan Murray, Jabari Smith got extended. Chet Holmgren got extended. Paolo Banchero got extended. So there is a lot of room for these guys to, earn extensions this year. And I'm almost 100% positive that at least one of those players will get extended by the Pistons and be a long-term future piece. When it comes to Jalen Duren, I am more confident with his extension than I am with Jaden Ivey just because of the injury last year. We saw what Jalen Duren can do in the playoffs. He looked very good offensively. Defensively, obviously, yes, there's some shortcomings that he's going to have to work on, but the lob threat that he brings and the connection that he has with Cade Cunningham is very important when you're looking at a guy who can be a part of this long-term future, because we already know Cade is this team's number one guy. He's their star, and he's their guy going forward. So every elite point guard needs a big body center that can take up space, rebound on the offensive and defensive glass, and is a legit lob threat, and that's what Jalen Duren is to Cade Cunningham. So again, shortcomings defensively don't really, or I think his offense makes up for those shortcomings. And the fact of the matter is, he's 21 years old. He has room to grow on the defensive end. It's very hard to come in and be an elite shot blocking, rim defending center coming out of college after being a freshman there, coming in at 18 years old. So I still think that he can get there and can be an above average rim defender. But again, his offensive game is so polished, and what he's able to do is only going to continue to grow. And with the chemistry he has with Cade Cunningham, I do think that he is more likely to get an extension this season than Jaden Ivey. But when you are looking at J.I., I think that there's just a lot that Trajan Langdon is evaluating this year. He lost almost an entire season last year due to injury. I think that was going to be your proof of concept to see if Cade and Jaden Ivey can play together. And there's just so many questions that are unanswered with Jaden Ivey. We saw some of them come to light. We saw some of them not come to light. I mean, the three-point shot was good. Is it legit? Can he become an efficient rim finisher? He wasn't efficient at the rim whatsoever last year. He was a below average finisher at the rim in the guard position, so that's going to have to improve. Can he be a secondary ball handler, is he going to be a specific off-ball guy next to Cade Cunningham? Can he run a bench unit as that backup point guard? We'll have to see. What does the defensive improvement look like? Does he lose a step coming off of that injury? I mean, there's so many different factors that go into whether or not this front office wants to extend Jaden Ivey. It makes a lot of sense that they didn't do it this summer because they do want to get a full year of seeing him next to Asar and Jalen Duren and Cade and some of those guys that are going to be a part of this future going forward. And I do think that Jaden Ivey is going to earn an extension, hopefully on a more team-friendly deal than what we're kind of hearing in regards to what he's demanding contract-wise. But I do think that the variables, he will answer some questions, and there's just a lot of variables that'll go into the extension. I don't know if he'll answer all the questions that I have, but he will answer some of those, and he will be proved to be a guy that can be that next option next to Cade Cunningham in the backcourt. But let me know in the comments down below if you think that Duren and Ivey are a part of this long-term core, or if you think the Pistons will have to choose one or the other when it comes to an extension. But last topic before we wrap things up, we touched on this a couple of segments ago, but I just wanted to talk about the lack of perimeter shooting for the Pistons, the lack of floor spacing, and whether or not I think that's actually something we should be concerned with. So losing Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley were massive. Malik Beasley was the best three-point shooter in Pistons franchise history. I think THJ came in at number 9 in total three-pointers made in a season in Pistons history. So you lost 2 top 10 three-point shooters in Detroit's franchise history. And that is a lot you're going to have to make up. But at the end of the day, Duncan Robinson is an unbelievable movement shooter who's still going to be able to knock down shots from anywhere behind the arc, from the corners, from the wings, from the top of the key. He's very good at moving off ball. He's a good passer. He's a better passer than Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley were last year. And again, he has Cade Cunningham next to him. I don't know if Malik Beasley was going to be able to replicate what he did this past year, but is Duncan Robinson going to be able to somewhat match that? We'll have to see. But I do believe that having Cade Cunningham instead of having Tyler Hero as his main point guard is going to help a lot. Also, Karis LeVert in that bench unit is going to help a lot with Duncan Robinson's three-point shooting ability. And it's going to help, and Karis LeVert is going to bring, hopefully, 36% from behind the arc. That's going to be better than what Dennis Schroeder brought you as the backup point guard last year. So there's another bench player who is going to be a very solid three-point shooter. We saw last year when he was in Cleveland, he was very good behind the arc. He kind of had a fall off a little bit in Atlanta, but I do think, again, like I mentioned, he's going to be with JB Bickerstaff, who he's played with before, and he's going to be with Cade Cunningham, who I think has the ability to make anybody an elite shooter. I don't think Karis LeVert's going to be elite, but I think he'll be very, very solid from behind the arc next year. And then again, Jaden Ivey, he shot 41% from three last year before he got hurt. I do think he can come back and be a 37 to 40% shooter. He was unbelievable above the break from shooting last year. If his corner three-point shooting can also come to fruition, we're looking at a guy who's going to be a 40% shooter throughout his career, and that's very, very important for Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey's development going forward. And then you got Ron Holland, who I think is going to improve. I don't think he'll be an elite shooter by any means in the next couple of years, but we're going to see year-to-year improvement. He's going to get more comfortable as a spot-up shooter, and we saw it in the Summer League. He looked very comfortable. He was taking shots off the dribble as well, and that's going to be important for his development too. So there's a lot of different things that can go right for this team, but again, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And we might be looking 50 games into the season, right around the trade deadline, and saying, man, we need to go out and get somebody who can knock down shots consistently, who can start, can also play some defense, be a good 3-and-D guy, because we don't really have that right now. Ron Holland is supposed to be that 3-and-D guy, but again, it's going to be a matter of whether or not that three-point shot comes to fruition, if he can actually have it translate from the Summer League to the regular season. And again, it's just going to be a matter of time before we can really get a definitive answer. And then when you're looking at Asar, JD, and Stu, yes, they are non-shooters, and it is a little bit scary. I think there's some trepidation there when you're looking at this Pistons team this year. But Stu and Asar bring so much on the defensive end. I think you can afford to have them in the game at the same time, along with Jalen Duren as well, with what he brings at the rim and as a rebounder. So none of the three non-shooters that the Pistons have are really liabilities anywhere else. They're all very solid in what they do, and they're going to give you, they're going to be plus players on the floor. I don't think that any of those guys are going to be in the game and you're thinking, man, they're unplayable. All three of those guys, regardless if they can shoot or they can't, are going to be much better. And I do think that Jalen Duren is going to expand his game from beyond the paint a little bit more this year. We're going to see him taking some mid-range jumpers, and I think that's going to also help space the floor for Cade, open things up for him to get downhill more effectively. And I am a little bit concerned, but I'm also confident that Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff know what they're doing. They know how to get this team to that next level, into the upper echelon of Eastern Conference teams. And again, it's going to be a matter of time, but I do think it's going to be a fun season this year, and we're going to see some guys step up and be able to space the floor and become movement shooters off ball with a guy like Cade Cunningham feeding them the rock. But let me know in the comments down below if you guys are nervous about having multiple non-shooters on the floor at the same time. Who you think is going to need to step up in order for the Pistons to replicate what they did last year from beyond the arc, and just who you're most looking forward to see making that jump. Is it Ron Holland? Do you think Karis LeVert can step into that role? And just what overall you think this offense is going to look like without Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. But that's all I've got for you guys today here on a Friday edition of Pistons Daily. As always, like, subscribe, comment, turn on post notifications, and follow me on Twitter at Kyle Garrison2. Also, head over to Spotify, leave a 5-star review and a follow if you can. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in every single day. With that being said, that is going to do it here for episode 54 of Pistons Daily, and I will catch you all next time.